Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, is often associated with kids who have a ton of energy and just can't seem to focus or concentrate. It affects approximately 5 to 9% of children and up to 5% of adults. And those adults who live with it are often undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. So with a closer look at what ADHD looks like in adults, we're joined by Heidi Bernhardt. She's the founder of the Centre for ADHD Awareness Canada. Good to have you with us.
Hi, good morning.
So for anybody who might be curious, what does ADHD look like in adults?
Sure. So ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, and the core symptoms we talk about are difficulty regulating attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. But you don't have to have the hyperactivity and impulsivity to have ADHD. That's a myth. So when we talk about difficulty regulating attention, people with ADHD can overfocus as much as they underfocus. Then they have difficulty switching their focus, and they have difficulty prioritizing their focus to the most important thing, not necessarily the most interesting thing.
Mm-hmm. And what about the symptom of racing minds? What does that look like in adults?
Yeah, so in younger children and adolescents, it starts to reduce in adolescence. We talk about outward hyperactivity, but very often in adulthood, it moves internal. So that hyperactivity we see in that constant racing mind and that inability to have those periods of calm. An adult once explained it to me as having 3 conversations in his brain all at the same time, even when he was trying to fall asleep.
For people and adults in particular who think they might have ADHD, what's it like getting a diagnosis?
Difficult, really difficult. We have an extreme lack of medical professionals who are experts in ADHD. For adults, this is generally adult psychiatrists, but really up until about 20 years ago, we didn't talk about adult ADHD very much. Mm-hmm. We used to think kids outgrew it in adolescence. We now know 90%, new research has shown that 90% of those kids still have impairing symptoms into adulthood, and we don't have the medical professionals who are trained in this. So it's very, very hard, long wait list to find an adult psychiatrist or a psychologist. Unfortunately, psychologists, you have to pay out of pocket, so it can be costly and very timely to get an assessment.
Of the adults I know that have been diagnosed with ADHD, a lot of times the diagnosis comes when their kids get the diagnosis.
Yes, exactly. Because to do a diagnosis, we take a family history, we take childhood history, mental health history, and we look at all of these symptoms and difficulty with organization and time management and problem solving and all these things that impact the kids. And then all of a sudden their parents go, wait a minute, that really sounds like me. That's how I was as a kid, but that's how I still am. I'm forgetful. I can't get places on time, right? I'm disorganized. I don't get my work in on time. All of those things are hallmarks of ADHD in adulthood.
What are some of the struggles that people can have if they don't receive a diagnosis?
Whoa, extreme. So we see far, far higher rates of other mental health disorders like anxiety, depression, substance use. We see more unemployment, more moving from job to job, more relationship problems, so far higher marriage breakups, difficulty with parenting. We see more issues with being involved in the justice system. So a whole range of problems. And what we always say to government is you can either pay at the front end or at the back end, because ADHD, when we don't diagnose and treat it, has some very significant problems lifelong.
It's a very interesting conversation and one I'm glad that we had today. Thanks so much. Good to meet you.
Thanks so much for your interest.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.